Well, hello there. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music, and this right here is Urban Politics. Want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance, take your little cell phone over to YouTube, like and subscribe. Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. I know what you're thinking. The background's looking a little different. Want to switch it up a little bit for you. You know what I'm saying? Always want to come at you with new and exciting things. Got even some more stuff on the horizon, but I love to switch up the scenery sometimes. Sometimes I'll just like to, sit in the bedroom and pontificate on this political thing, politics. It's a trip. It's always interesting. It's always fun. It's always a mile a minute, and nothing has changed. As you see, this is just a side note. I ain't even talking about this on the show today, but it looks like the writer's strike is over. That's huge. I think they big businesses and big outlets tried to see if they could live with AI. They obviously couldn't. So for right now, it's being held off, and they done brought the writers back. That's a good thing. That's a huge thing. I don't like the fact that the strike lasted as long as it did, because that lets you know that they were entertaining the fact of replacing all these writers with AI. And then I heard things aren't still perfect or whatever. Now they brought them back, but at least they're back. So a lot of the political shows or a lot of the nighttime talk shows and stuff that you and I love are back, and I love that because I was really missing that. I was watching a lot of Young Turks, as I always do anyway, in the absence of the Tonight Show and Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that. But it's still good to get these guys' takes because they're comedians. And comedians always have an interesting perspective, especially when it comes to politics and things like that. So I love when comedians do political humor because they always have something poignant and interesting to talk about. With that said, thank God the strike is over. It's over for writers, but I guess there's still a strike going on for actors. So that's sad. You know what I'm saying? And I talked about it on this show, how The Rock had donated like 6 figures to the SAG Corporation, which is the Screen Actors Guild Corporation. And that's going to help a lot of actors. They really need it now because they're still on strike. Even though they brought the writers back, they're still, not giving the actors their just desserts, right? So we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, they're still on strike, and we stand in solidarity with that. Anyway, moving on to what? Politics. That's what you're here for. This is Urban Politics, and we here for politics. This place for politics, baby. So let's talk politics. I want to talk about the debt ceiling and Kevin McCarthy. What do those two things have to do with each other? A whole lot, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin McCarthy lost his speakership. It was spearheaded by Matt Gaetz. Yes, Matt Gaetz, a fellow Republican, was spearheading the ousting of Kevin McCarthy, which went down this week. GOP claims that Democrats ousted the speaker, which is not true. And it's funny. Here they go playing games because they know that most people just don't pay enough attention. Here's how that goes. Matt Gaetz was pushing to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. Why? All these Freedom Caucus idiots are mad at Kevin McCarthy because he went ahead and passed a deal not to necessarily raise the debt ceiling, but to kick the can down the road till November. Gaetz gets mad at that with the rest of the idiot Freedom Caucus. Why? Because they want wild concessions in there before they do anything. They want to slash Medicare. They want to slash Medicaid. They want to slash anything that helps people who aren't made of money, who donate to their campaigns. He didn't do that, Mr. McCarthy. And there's a ton of political reasons why he didn't do it, but really that wasn't the thing to do anyway. He couldn't do it. Now his problem is, before he got that job, he promised heaven and earth to all these idiots. He knew he couldn't deliver it. If you're a student of history, as I am, that Republican speakership job has always been just hell on earth for who's ever had it. You could ask John Boehner. You know what I'm saying? Cat from Cincinnati, who I share nothing in common with politically. He was Speaker of the House back in the day. It wasn't easy. One of the people that, Republican Speaker of the House back in the day, it wasn't easy. He ended up leaving. There's another guy, I can't remember his name. He was only there for 10 minutes too. This is not an easy job because there's a whole lot of people who you're beholden to and a whole lot of people you got to make happy. Now, back in the day, Newt Gingrich, the Newt, he pulled it off. But Newt Gingrich was a piece of garbage. So... He was what he was. I'm not going to lie. I thought about this a little while ago. I remember not even getting into politics. Before I ever got into politics, of course, I got into hip-hop. And I remember hearing a song by the Fugees. And I remember Lauryn Hill saying, such and such cut wig like Newt Gingrich sucks. And it's a family show, I won't, but she said a word that starts with a D and rhymes with ick. I was tripping because I thought to myself, who is this Newt Gingrich guy? And why does Lauryn Hill think that he... gets involved in fellatio? It's a family show. I'm trying to keep it decent. But as I got older and I got into politics, I said, wow, Lauryn Hill was right, he does. Anyway, that's sidebar. Point being, that Republican speakership job has always been a monster. It's always been a beast. It's always been something hard. I don't know why people want it. Now, I remember reading a while ago that they were talking about what comes with that job is, of course, your spot in history. Because some of these guys whose names I can't even remember, they're written somewhere down in a book. And this is history. I mean, this is history that somebody's going to have to learn to pass a test and all that good stuff. So these guys want to be recorded in history. That's something big. And I guess there's a painting that they get that sits in the White House. And they were saying that Kevin McCarthy was really, really amped and jazzed about that painting that he got that would sit in the White House and sit there forever. And I guess he's probably pumped about the fact that, you know, he'll be 60, 70, 80 years old. Him and his family can take trips or whatever, and he can go there and probably show him this painting, you know what I'm saying, that sits at the White House. Whatever. If that is worth the humiliation and the hardship and the brown-eyed agony that you go through, having your own gang turn on you, first of all, Mr. McCarthy, for taking 15 votes for you to get the job. That right there lets you know they'd rather have a ham sandwich than you as speaker. But after 15 votes, you finally got it just to be ousted quickly because you didn't do their bidding. Sad, pathetic. It TI is what it TI is. Oh, here I go. And I didn't never explain that. Okay. So now if you have been watching Fox News and some of these other outlets, been all these Republicans running around talking about all the Democrats got rid of our speaker, all the Democrats. That is garbage. They do that because they know most John Q. Public don't give a damn about none of this. John Q. Public cares about kitchen table issues, right? You know what I'm saying about why there ain't more money in my pocket to pay for this high gas. Why is this gas so high? Stuff like that. Although gas is lower than it's ever been. We'll talk about that later. That's actually helping Biden, right? Now that we're flowing into election, gas being low. It has nothing to do with the presidency, but people think it does. Anyway, moving on. So they run around saying that. Why? Because all the Democrats voted to get rid of the speaker. Now, the thing is, why would any Democrats try and help the Republicans out? The Republicans have all this infighting going on. One of their own gang members, Matt Gaetz, is the one who spearheaded this whole thing to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. Why would they do anything to stop that? They're not. They're just sitting back and watching that party implode, as you should do. We're in an election season. We're about to vote for the executive, right? Why would they get in the middle of that? And they didn't. They went ahead and voted for it. If they want to get rid of their speaker, us too. Who cares? Who cares? We have no dog in this fight. They had no dog in that fight. So while they talk about all that stuff, why would any Democrat have a problem with Kevin McCarthy, besides the fact that he's a Republican and Speaker of the House and touts a lot of that other Republican garbage that they don't agree with? But besides that, they had no reason to not want him as Speaker. Fellow Republicans ousted him. They're the ones, Matt Gaetz, that Freedom Party, they're the ones who did not want him. So please know that, ladies and gentlemen, within the sound of my voice, don't fall for that BS that the GOP has been kicking. So they're mad about all that. And that's why I said, especially the Freedom Caucus. And the Freedom Caucus is people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and probably, what is his name, Gomer? I don't know. Some of these buffoons who really need to be voted out, but their constituents, for whatever reason, keep voting them in office. I don't understand it. I was watching a reel, and it was Joy Reid, and she was talking about how there's such a disconnect. How right now the economy's doing good. Gas is low. The economy's not doing bad at all. It's doing pretty good. But there's such a disconnect. Because when they take a poll, I think like 70 to 80% of Americans think the economy's doing bad. And I swear to you, that ain't nothing but messaging. The Republicans are so much better at messaging than the Democrats. There needs to be some Democrats out here. The number one Democrat who should be out here screaming from the rooftops is Joseph Robinette Biden. He's got the bully pulpit. I don't know why he ain't using it, Mr. President. You are the president. You could call Fox News. You could call MSNBC. You can call CNN. You can call any one of these outlets and tell them you about to say some stuff, and they will stop the presses and record it. Why are you not saying how good this economy is and daring someone to bring you the numbers that refute what you just said? What is he doing? I get it, Mr. President. You're old. You're tired. This ain't the time to be tired, bruh. And I think we talked about that on this show too. You know what I'm saying? How Joe Biden's age is of concern. It is of concern. But I'm also like, who else is there? Right now, no one else has stepped up. Are there some other people I would love to see stepped up? I talked about Gavin Newsom. He ain't perfect, but I think he would be a pretty decent president. Cory Booker, he ain't perfect, but I wouldn't mind seeing him take a run at it. AOC, I know she has no desire to be president. She has no desire to be president. I would love to see that young lady make a go of it. Will she? No. Ilhan Omar, she could never win that. Sister wears a hijab in Congress. That right there would make people on both sides not vote for her. But guess what? Any of these people would be great people to see at least vying for the nomination. We need to see some of this young talent in the Democratic Party step up, but it is what it is. Something needs to change. There was such a disconnect between how the economy really is and how Americans feel about the economy. Speaking of that, let's move on to another cheery topic, child poverty. Yeah, he said sarcastically. This hurts my heart, ladies and gentlemen, but I always got to talk about it because I've worked with kids probably for the last 30, 35 years. My whole adult life, that's all I've ever done is work with children and work with kids. I was telling a lady a little while ago, I've worked with kids from 2 to 25. So that's all I've ever done. So let's talk child poverty, shall we? Child poverty more than doubles a year after hitting a record low. Now, I reported that on this show when all that stimulus stuff was going on and they came out with the child tax credit. Is that what it was? Or the child income credit? Something like that. It was called CRT, something like that. I talked about it on the show. Great program where they were giving, parents of children, I think, what was it? Oh man, I'm gonna mess these numbers up. I think it was $300 if your child was under 18 or under 17, and another amount if they were over 17. But this was money given to parents to help out with all types of stuff. There were people crying on CNN talking about how this money was helping them get child care and all these other good things. While this was going on, I reported on the show how this was a great program because it literally got rid of childhood poverty. Literally got rid of it. It eradicated childhood poverty. Now, I would think anything that did that is worth keeping and worth investing in. But it seems there's a lot of people on the right and excuse my language, and heck, even on the left who probably don't think that's that important, which is sad. But that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I've always worked with kids. Kids are in the forefront of my mind. My own children, always in the forefront of my mind, right? So when I hear about legislation like this, then like I said, think about that. And forever, people like presidents for a lot of different reasons. I know a lot of people who like Carter because there wasn't a single bullet fired during his presidency. One of my boys, he watches the show, my man Rasan, he won't mind me saying his name, my dude. Carter is his favorite president. Why? Because there wasn't a bullet fired during the man's presidency. Carter had been to war. He knew the cost of war. So he did not go into it half-heartedly or you know what I'm saying, or flippantly. Okay? So there was no bullets fired during his presidency. There's people like my man Rasan took a half of that. I've talked to people on the right who think that that's lame. They think that made him a punk and other words I wouldn't use on this show once again because it's a family show. But see, that's just different people's perspectives of that. I have tons of respect for the man. Not a bullet fired during your presidency. I'm like, that guy was awesome. I would love to have a presidency like that where nobody got hurt. We didn't have to hurt nobody, but still was able to keep the peace. I think that's great, but see, that's my perspective on that. So different people have different perspectives, right? So there's a lot of people who weren't that impressed that he was able to single-handedly eradicate childhood poverty. Does that mean that they don't care about childhood poverty? You tell me. Anyway, moving on. The latest figure, hold up. A year ago, it was at a historic low of 5.2% a year ago. Latest figure is 12.4%, which is same as the overall poverty rate. So now the kids have caught up with the adults. There you go. Sad. That is sad, ladies and gentlemen. But now the babies is just as poor as the grown folk. So is that what we wanted in this country? Maybe. That's the numbers, right? Experts blame inflation and the end of the child tax credit. That's what it was, CTC. Got it right here in my notes. I forgot the name of it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what old age do for you. CTC. That was the thing that was literally able to lift 65 million children out of poverty. And majority Republicans voted to get rid of it. Ask yourself, do these people think that it's cool that kids are poor and don't eat? Maybe. Numbers would say that. Anyway, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, because my time is drawing nigh. I'm not here to keep you all day. Let's talk about the trans bill in Ohio. Now, this right here is hot news. Everywhere I go, they're talking about trans rights and trans this and trans kids is the real big one, too. Now, I was watching some Joe Rogan reels. People say, why are you watching that guy? Because actually the show is pretty interesting. And he was saying all he talks about on his show are things that interest him. I believe it because there's a wide range of stuff on his show. But I saw him on there, and he was talking about, anyway, the reason that a lot of this stuff is coming up is because all the money that they make from pushing this medication and these drugs on a lot of these kids who are claiming that, you know what I'm saying, that they're a boy trapped in a girl's body or a girl trapped in a boy's body or whatever, stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily dealing with that, though. This is dealing with the bathroom issue in some of these college universities and some of these schools and stuff like that. You heard about it. They've been making jokes about it. They've been talking about it. So here it is. House Bill 183. It would ban trans students from using a bathroom that doesn't correspond with the gender of their birth certificate or the one that was assigned at birth. So that's what they were saying in this thing that I was reading, basically, is that you have to go to a bathroom that corresponds with your gender on your birth certificate or the one that you were assigned at birth, not the one that you identify with. One of the legislators was quoted as saying, boys cannot become girls and girls cannot become boys. The modern issue of gender is not a social construct, but the idea you can change your gender is. A UCLA School of Law did a study that showed allowing trans people to use the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity does not increase safety risk. So that was interesting to me because you hear that all the time. You know what I'm saying? That there's women who don't feel comfortable with the fact that some man can just identify as a woman and be up in a woman's bathroom doing God knows what, right? And they were saying that there's no study that proves that. Now, I've heard of those cases happening, so I guess I know that it does happen, but they're saying it's not commonplace. I hate the way sometimes in this country we play by the law of averages. You know, if it doesn't happen most of the time, then it doesn't really happen, and that's not true, because each one of these cases where it did happen, there was some young lady who was hurt, probably raped or sexually assaulted by some guy who just said, "Yeah, I feel like a lady," just so he could get up in there. There's that. But since we run by the law of averages here in America, that don't happen most of the time, so it doesn't happen. We're not going to deal with it. So that is what it is right there. Some say it's a part of the. Some say it's a part of a concerted effort to keep trans people out of public life. I hear that. There's a lot of people who just don't want to deal with that issue. Is it a new issue? No, but there is such a light shined on it right now. Like I said, back in the days, racial ambiguity was no big thing. On SNL, there was a character, hey, it's Pat, and that was Pat. And Pat was racially ambiguous. And that's what all the skits would be about, how he or she would go to these different places, and people didn't know whether it was a he or she, so that was hilarious, Where it's time for androgyny, it's Pat. Some people are old enough to know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, but it was actually a really funny skit, you know what I'm saying, that SNL would do. But that just shows you that this has been around forever. This is nothing new. Right now, a light has just been shined on it. Why? It's a boogeyman for the right. It really is. There was a lady who had been reposted by Joy Reid, a white lady, and she was just talking about how they're using all of this as a smokescreen. You know what I'm saying? As prices are steady going up, your paycheck is steady going down, rental rates are steady going up, people can't afford places to live, people can't afford food to eat, all of that stuff is going on, and then they want to come after people's sexual identity. We want to come after people's pronouns. All of that stuff is small potatoes when you can't feed yourself. All of that stuff is small potatoes when you work a 40-hour work week, but you can't afford to pay rent in a decent neighborhood. But they keep you focusing on this type of stuff. She was 100% correct, ladies and gentlemen. They call it wag the dog. Wag the dog much? Government. Wag the dog much? GOP. That's all they doing with this. That's all they doing with this. They got people all up in arms over drag queen ran reading time for the kids, and we're gonna talk about that. I got something to say about that too. We're gonna talk about that. But my point is, that's not the meat of this sandwich, ladies and gentlemen. Are those issues? Sure they are, and they're issues that deserve our attention, but they're not the main issues. Okay, we got a house that's burning down. We running around here talking about what's going on in the driveway. Not even talking about how the house is on fire, but who paved the driveway? Who cares about who paved the driveway? Who cares about the curb appeal when the house is burning down, ladies and gentlemen, right? Let me move on. There was a Parents' Bill of Rights, which was Teachers must notify parents about teaching sexual content and of any change in a student's mental, emotional, or physical health that failed to pass. I don't know why. I think that was a great thing right there. As a parent, I do want the teacher to, number one, tell me if you call yourself talking to my son about something sexually explicit, because I need to know what context that's coming in. And then number two, I do want to know if anything is going on, if there's a change in my son's mental, emotional, or physical health. I want to know it. A lot of people will say, what business is of the teachers, or why the teacher got to tell you this? Years ago, a friend of mine, my homeboy Eric, who also watches the show, my dude in Boston, smart dude, one of the smartest people I know, very intelligent young man. As a matter of fact, I think he's working on his doctorate. I think he is Dr. Eric, not going to say his last name to protect his safety. But you know what I'm saying? Not even joking around. I think he's pretty much Dr. Eric at this point. So my dude, big brain. Big brain. Years ago, you know what he said to me, Ed? He said, think about how much time your kids spend around people who aren't you. Think about that. And I never thought about that. I got 3 kids. Oldest one being 27. I got a 20-year-old and I got a 6-year-old, right? I never thought about all the time your kids spend around other people who aren't you. Your kids are going to school. They're there for most of the day. So they're around those teachers a lot. They're around those other kids a lot, but they're not around you a lot at all. Then when you get home, you're usually tired from work, right? So you want a little time away from the kids. Heck, I work with kids. Imagine me. I come home. Sometimes I got to decompress, not be around any kids, including my own son. Then I get it together and I go kick it with him. You know what I'm saying? Because I talked about that on the show too. I work with autistic kids. I come home, it's kind of a, it's a different kid environment, even though it's still working with kid again. But then some stuff is still the same just because he's a kid, right? So point being, that's hard to sometimes. You know what I'm saying? That can be really, really hard to navigate. So, I talked about how I was going to talk about these drag shows and drag shows, they got legislation and they want to regulate that to just adult spaces. So at nightclubs and bars and stuff like that, just places where they were saying that only adults should be drag shows. I get it. I got a crazy story about that. And I got a little bit of time. My father was at the Columbus Commons, I guess a couple of years ago. There was a drag show there. He loved it. He came home going on and on and on about it. Now, number one, my father's in his 70s. He's a black man in his 70s. So you already know how he feels about anything that's related to the LGBTQ community and all that good stuff. Any cliche you thinking about a black man and that community, you can go ahead and throw at my pops and he probably would fill it in for you. So there's that. I won't even give you his take on Rachel Maddow. But anyway, he loved that show. He's so impressed with it. He said, say what you want to about them people. They put on a show. He said the girl was flipping and spinning. She came down into a splendid. I never seen the old guy so jazzed about something. So there's that. I tell people all the time, if you have a problem with a community, go spend some time around that community. All right? You got a problem with gay people, go find some gay folk to hang out around. Eat a pizza in a gay neighborhood and see what happens. You know what's going to happen? You're going to be like, these people are just like me. Just regular people trying to live. Why am I tripping? With that said, drag reading circles for kids. I've went on record on this show and saying it before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't know why that's necessary. I'm sorry. I definitely don't agree with these neo-Nazi type guys coming with armed weapons to these things and trying to break them up. That ain't necessary either. Cut that out. But why do we need drag queens doing the reading circle for 4, 5, and 6-year-olds? Okay? My son is 6. And I talked to his mother about it. And I mean, we're about as liberal as they come, right? But she even said that's just too much. She said, Eddie's at the library and a drag queen steps up for story time. We're removing him from that. There it is. I remember watching a reel. It was so interesting. There was I sit here and I want to say a brother, but I'm probably not respecting, what he identified as. But this was a brother. He was dressed in, and had full lipstick on. He had earrings on. So, he was trans. And he was saying that he was a school teacher, a preschool teacher. And he said, so a lot of those parents, he said, some of those parents, as soon as they walked in the room and got one looked at me, they just turned around. And he said, it's not fair for you to not even give me a chance, for you to be so turned off by my look or whatever, you don't give me a chance. But then there was a brother there, and he had said, well, he said, I hear what you're saying, but as a parent, that is my job to police my child's, I'm paraphrasing, to police my child's activities. He says, so I have a say in that. And if I don't want my child exposed to that, then I don't have to have them exposed to that. My woman said the same thing. She's like, nah, you know what I'm saying? And that is how his teacher presents. Probably gonna get him up out of there. I don't know what you do with that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that's racist. I think that's just being a parent and saying what you want your child exposed to and when you want them exposed to it. I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I said a lot of times I don't even deal with that issue on this show because I don't know how to come at it. I will say glory be to God, it's never been an issue for me and my child. My son, for whatever reason, I mean, from a long time ago, he just had these very concrete, rigid views of what was for boys and what was for girls. You know, he see a doll and that's for girls. I might even bring him home something purple. That's for girls. My son was just all about trucks and cars and army men and all of that type of stuff. He barely play with a Peppa Pig toy because Peppa Pig's a girl. So, you know, he like, that's for girls. It's why. I don't know where that came from. But I understand where there's plenty of parents who, you know what I'm saying, ain't had the luxury, if that's what you want to call it, of their child, you know, drawing up so tight with the gender that they were assigned at birth. And I get that. That's something they have to deal with. Heart goes out to them. I get that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's that. Anyway, let's deal with my IPA of the week. My IPA is a real good one. This is Lemon Glow Hazy Pale Ale by Land Grant. Let me get that in the camera right there. See, want to get that. Oh, there we go. Oh, got up in there real good for you. Yes, and that is a really good one. Lemon Glow by Land Grant. It is, like I said, a hazy pale ale. They say hops, lemon drop, Centra, Laurel, Centennial. Is 5.7% alcohol by volume, so you drink this, you're definitely going to feel it more than just your regular 5.0 or 5.5. And this is great. It's by, like I said, Land Grant. They make some really good beers, really good IPAs. This one was one of their best. I had a 6 of this. I probably drank it in maybe a day and a half, 2 days. It was so delicious. Real easy to drink, real sippable beer right there. Once again, where's it at? Lemon Glow by Land Grant. That's a great IPA. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music. This right here is Urban Politics. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing as you do. Please, as soon as you have a chance, take your little cell phone over to YouTube, like and subscribe. Fizz Ed Music, Urban Politics. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, see you around like a donut.